Michigan State losing more big names in the portal. Bai Jobe, he is out. Jalen Berger, he is out. But, hey, a massive running back, he enters the fray. Kay'Ron Lynch-Adams. We talk about it all. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That is $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below how you're feeling about the portal season for Michigan State football so far. And if you ever want to reach out, LockedOnSpartans@gmail.com. And thank you all so much again for tuning into Locked On Spartans, your team every single day. And yes, it's another mid-afternoon episode. I'm sorry it's kind of been sporadic here the last few weeks, but just with the schedule and I guess kind of how crazy all the news has been, it kind of turns into sporadic episodes dropping here throughout the week. Speaking of, yesterday we talked about Derrick, Harmon, we talked about Frankie Fiddler, and then about an hour or so after that, Michigan State gets a big addition out of the portal at the running back position, Kay'Ron Lynch-Adams. So that's what we're going to kick off things with today. Kay'Ron Lynch-Adams, 5'10", 205-pound running back. And, well, holy cow, it kind of looks a lot like Nate Carter. On the roster, Nate Carter's just 5 pounds lighter than he is, but same build, 5'10". And, yeah, it's not really a lightning and a thunder package. It kind of seems like a thunder and thunder package that these two running backs are going to offer. Now, Kay'Ron Lynch-Adams starts his career at Rutgers, goes to UMass, has a little bit of injury, unfortunate luck over with the Minutemen. But last year, had himself a whale of a season, averaged nearly 100 yards per game, 4.9 yards per carry. And no offense to UMass, I'm sure they're trying their best out there, but that's not necessarily behind the greatest offensive line that you'll find in the country. He had a really strong game against Auburn last year, so good experience. All right, this is going to be his 6th year coming up in college, and he doesn't just run the ball well. Last year for UMass, he also had 20 catches out of the backfield, so multifaceted game. We love to see that out of Kay'Ron Lynch-Adams. And what I like about his game, because Jonathan Smith didn't bring him here for no good reason, he bounces off tacklers, or rather, tacklers just bounce off him. He's got a way of shedding contact. And Michigan State fans out there, I know that this might be a lazy comparison because we hear this like all the time whenever running backs are talked about. But there's a little bit of that Le'Veon Bell patience to him. Now, I'm not calling him Le'Veon Bell or that he will be as good or as productive as Le'Veon Bell. But behind the line of scrimmage, he does take a beat to kind of see where things are at, see where the holes are. Okay, is my original gap closed? I'm going to bounce it to the outside. He does have that mature patience out of him, and maybe that's just a byproduct of playing college football for 5 years up until this point. But this is what you are going to get with Kay'Ron Adams. It was clear that Michigan State was not too satisfied with their running back room. That's why they targeted him. They also tried to go after Andrew Paul, a Georgia transfer, but it looks like that, hey, Kay'Ron is going to be the man here. I would suspect that he projects as running back 2 right now behind Nate Carter, but that's only just by depth chart definition. I'm sure the the carry splits are going to be pretty neck and neck between Carter and Lynch-Adams. 2 experienced guys, 2 guys that run the same. So yeah, and at the end of the day, both talented, and you cannot have enough of that at the skill position. So there you have it. Kay'Ron Lynch-Adams coming to a football field in East Lansing near you. Now, we got 5 names that we got to go through that have left Michigan State into the transfer portal. We're going to start with the freshest name that we got here. The biggest name, arguably, Bai Jobe. Now, this was the crown jewel of Mel Tucker's final recruiting class at Michigan State. Former top 100 kid, defensive end, just a great recruiting win for Michigan State. Raw athlete, but as you guys already know, he is in the transfer portal. Now, look, I'm not flipping over tables, or I'm not going to lose sleep over this as much as we did with Derrick Harmon or Simeon Barrow. Because, look, I kind of buried on the depth chart. Right, I don't even know if he would have made the 2 deep this year. I mean, you have your starters, Avery Dunn, Chris Bogle. That's where it's at right now. Quindarius Dunnigan, Jalen Thompson. you could figure those guys are second on the 2 deep, and he was maybe just the last guy looking in. I don't know how he would have compared with Anthony Jones out of Indiana, but still, it just sucks. I mean, let's not get it twisted. I'm not saying good riddance or, this is a good thing. It's not. It's just really, it would have really been ideal if they could have found a way for him to get on the field. Now, with that said, I'm not saying the coaching staff screwed up here, because this is something that I remarked about after the spring showcase. And I was just watching on Big Ten Network. I was not at the stadium, so apologies for that. But when they're doing individual drills, it looked like Bai Jobe was still sizably smaller than some of his guys that were around him, like your Chris Bogles, for example. So I don't know if he would have gotten on the field to have instant impact play, per se, this upcoming season. But still, raw athlete, you hate to see a former top 100 kid walk out the door with only playing one game for Michigan State, and that was against Washington last year. So best of luck to him. Again, the DePape exit yesterday, that's not too much of a shock. He wasn't even at the stadium on Saturday, but Bai Jobe, of course, he was there. You're kind of hoping out for a sliver of hope that he was going to stick around here for a sophomore season, but nevertheless, he is out of here. Now, another big name, Jaylen Berger. He is in the transfer portal, and it's a big name just because of familiarity, right, guys? Like, he was the running back behind Nate Carter last year. Former 4-star recruit out of Wisconsin. That's who you got him out of, from the transfer portal. But yeah, no disrespect whatsoever. Like, there's no nice way to talk about this, but this isn't one you're going to lose sleep over. I get the familiarity of the name, but as many of you guys saw on Saturday, he was already jumped in the depth chart by true freshman Brandon Tulis. And that was without Jaren Mangum even being able to suit up for the spring showcase. So you add Jaren Mangum's name in the mix, we're probably looking at 4th running back in the depth chart. And then, Kay'Ron Lynch-Adams, the guy we just talked about, he just got added to the team too. Jalen Berger all of a sudden goes from 2nd running back on last year's team to, oh my God, I'm the 5th guy now. I mean, never in the history of roster making in football has writing been written on the wall any bolder than it did on Saturday, and kind of the days leading up to that, as they were aggressive looking for more running backs for this roster. I mean, Jonathan Smith and company might as well have put a U-Haul in front of Jalen Berger's apartment after Saturday's game. And essentially, that is what happened. He is on to hopefully better things for him. Now, Jack Nickel, this is another name that entered the portal, tight end. Again, this is just a peek at the depth chart kind of thing. Jack Velling, the transfer from Oregon State, presumed starter, of course. They made it kind of clear that Michael Masunis, he's going to be the 2nd guy, or if not him, then Brennan Parachek, who was unable to play in the showcase on Saturday due to injury. So all of a sudden, Jack Nickel comes in as a promising recruit, picked Michigan State over Notre Dame, but now he's 4th on the depth chart, so it's on to better things for him. And the last 2 names, former walk-on offensive lineman Andy Hartman, and then kicker Steven Rusnak. They are also in the transfer portal now. Steven Rusnak, it's hard. I mean, understandably for him, Jonathan Kim coming back here, and Steven Rusnak. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words here. The memory I will have about him is kind of already having a bad feeling about how that Purdue game in 2021 was going to unfold. When our starting kicker isn't only hurt, but his backup, Steven Rusnak in this case, is trotting out there with just an arm cast, misses his first field goal, and you're thinking, I could probably just turn the TV off right now, because the vibes around this game at Ross-Ade Stadium are not lining up to where us Michigan State fans want it to be. So Steven Rusnak, best of luck to him, obviously. Best of luck to all these guys. Look, understandable for all these guys to be moving on. So we're going to talk about a visitor that's coming to East Lansing that should pique our interest. And then I'm going to rant a little bit about this whole transfer portal thing. But first, guys, need to talk your ears off about Monopoly Go. That's right. Hey, you know the classic game Monopoly, but this is even better. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking too good. You're feeling low, not sure you or the team can pull out a win. That's when you got to dig deep, lift up your head and say to yourself, well, it's time to get back into this game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much money for my friends as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's a Monopoly you know and love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your friends. And there's so much to do, like play on the countless dynamic Monopoly boards, make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball, charge other players rent for your iconic properties, or, hey, mix it up. Actually be friendly and work with your friends to crack open community chests in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go for free on the App Store or Google Play. Also, guys, Game Time, my favorite ticketing app in the game. If there is a ticketed event you are going to, we're talking sporting events, we're talking concerts, we're talking comedy shows, Game Time is your place to find those tickets. Whether you like to plan in advance, whether you know you're going to go to an event this weekend, log on during the week, check out the flash deals, and they will save you that cheddar. Or if you're like me, you're a big procrastinator, you're going to go to the event, but you don't have tickets as you're walking up to the venue, open up the Game Time app. They will have the last-minute ticket deals that will suit your needs and your wallet. Speaking of wallet, Game Time, they want to save you money right off the bat in a very easy way, guys. When you make an account over at Game Time, this, of course, after you download it, create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. All right, back onto the football field to talk about a big visitor this weekend, literally and figuratively, because we all know Simeon, Barrow, Derrick, Harmon, they're out of here. Most likely they are not coming back unless Michigan State wants to pony up absurd money. Again, more on that later. But Brandon Lane. Now, I don't expect you to know that name right at the top of your head unless you're a huge college football nut, but Brandon Lane out of Stephen F. Austin. That's right. Who knew they even played football? Stephen F. Austin. He is going to be visiting Michigan State here. So this defensive tackle, 6'3", 300 pounds. He had 44 tackles last season, 6.5 of those tackles for loss. Now, this guy is getting some early 2025 NFL draft chatter, which out of Stephen F. Austin, you don't get a lot of that necessarily. So you're wondering why? Huh? His speed for 300 pounds at 6'3" is what has some scouts raising their eyebrows when they see him. Now, I'm not talking, first round NFL pick, day 2 NFL pick, probably a tweener between day 3 and undrafted free agent. Nevertheless, very talented guy. Now, unfortunately, it's not just Michigan State that is seeing that in him. He's visited Washington. He's visited Cal. West Virginia was planning to have him visit, although I don't know if that was ever confirmed, but plenty of Power 4 schools out there also showing interest. Kentucky has a close eye on him. Oklahoma has a close eye on him. Texas A&M and Iowa. So that's a long way of saying that, yes, Michigan State, they have a need for defensive tackle, but as we've learned with Harmon and Barrow and a lot of schools forking over big money for players like that, a lot of schools have a need for defensive tackle. But for Michigan State to get him on campus in the near future, that's a big win. That's nice for Jonathan Smith and the staff. And of course, you don't count it as a total win until you get that commitment. But yes, patching up the hole right there, because I do think he can be a day 1 starter for Michigan State. I think he could be a day 1 starter at many of these schools that he's visiting. I don't think that Brandon Lane is going to be visiting a lot of schools and then making his pick on, where can I play backup defensive tackle at? No, this will be a day 1 instant impact starter. I don't know if it completely just makes the Harmon loss a neutral or the Barrow loss a neutral, but wow, does that cut the depth of the skill level between where you would be? I mean, more than in half. I don't think it's that steep of a drop-off there. Quick recruiting news right here. This weekend, Charles White, local kid out of Orchard Lake St. Mary's, 3-star linebacker, 6'3", 200 pounds. He will be committing somewhere this weekend. And of course, Michigan State is on his list. That's why we're talking about him. But he's between the Spartans, Kansas, Purdue, and Boston College. Again, committing somewhere this Saturday. Now, Rivals has him ranked as the number 9 overall player in the state and the 45th best outside linebacker in the nation. Also, in other recruiting news, Avery Gatch, Friday, May 3rd, he will be committing somewhere. That's a 4-star offensive lineman. He has Michigan State in his Final Four, as well as Wisconsin, Ohio State, and Michigan. My best advice for Michigan State fans, don't even bother with it. It's not going to be Michigan State. Not to spoil the kid's big day, but I wouldn't be interested in that. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about a 4-star offensive tackle that had us in his Final Four, a kid that's local. But yeah, if he does end up committing to Michigan State, I will walk over to Birmingham Groves High School myself and record that episode on their 50-yard line. You can hold me accountable to that. All right. The next place that I want to take this is, well, kind of ranting in a way, but I still have thoughts on the Harmon and Barrow exit. So entertain me here, guys. Because look, I'm not happy. I know a lot of you guys aren't happy, whether it's with the players, Michigan State, or the system as a whole. That's what I want to get to. I went through all the emotions when Simeon Barrow goes to the portal. Okay, fine. That's one player. It's one defensive tackle. That sucks. Okay, we just paid him in the offseason. And I say we as if I contributed any money. But still, as a Michigan State fan, we paid him in the offseason. One guy, whatever. Derrick Harmon leaves, and that's when things started to get really frustrating because our strength just went to a borderline weakness overnight because 2 players that you took care of this offseason are deciding to go elsewhere. That has to leave a bad taste in your mouth. So I go through all of the emotions. The first one that I thought of was just like, well, damn it. Like, what happened to this strong NIL that Michigan State apparently has? What's going on with that? Like, these guys are just jumping ship for money. I start off upset at Michigan State. And then I really sat down. I thought. I realized what I heard in some conversations that I had with some people that knew something about everything. And Derrick Harmon was reportedly one of the top defensive tackles being paid in the conference, if not the highest paid defensive tackle in the Big Ten Conference. Michigan State and the NIL coffers did take care of him. And guys, the NIL is still strong. Aiden Childs isn't here just because he really loves Jonathan Smith and Brian Lindgren that much. Sure, that helps a ton, but there's some NIL money attached to that. You didn't stave off 2 separate efforts by USC to pull Aiden Childs away from Michigan State just because you didn't have any money. No. The NIL is still strong here. Okay, you also got some good transfers so far this portal season. Here's the issue, though. Teams are desperate for defensive tackles. Big teams. Of course, we're talking like the big-name SEC teams, the Blue Bloods, some in the ACC, what have you. They are paying huge for them, okay? And I understand that some of you may say, well, okay, we'll give the players an offer that they can't refuse. And this is where I'm going to start yelling here. Because eventually, what are we paying for at this point? They were taken care of as some of the top defensive tackles in the offseason, even though, guys, they've only been honorable mention Big Ten players the last few years. Don't get me wrong. They are good players. They are losses for Michigan State. But these aren't Aaron Donalds or Ndamukong Suhs out there that you are losing. Like, I understand that they're good players, but eventually the price gets so high, you have to look at yourself and say, I'm sorry, are we paying an all-pro player right now? Or are we paying just like kind of nice defensive tackles? It doesn't make sense to spend the money that other schools are offering eventually. So Michigan State, I got to say, the NIL coffers, I can't really blame them because what are you paying? You're paying that much money for players that won't make that big of an impact on a season, guys, that honestly will end in a 7-5 year. Is it worth it to the NIL people? I mean, okay, so there you have it. The next step that I took was being upset at the guys themselves, right? Like Derrick Harmon, Simeon Barrow, doing the whole, how could they? How could you? MSU just made you one of the most highest paid defensive tackle duos in the conference. Again, if not the highest paid duo in the Big Ten. How dare you go out and leave? Shouldn't you be happy? Guys, this is where I'm going to try to like educate people because I truly think that this is the storyline when it comes to these kids is the kind of money we are talking about. I don't think a lot of people know what kind of money we are actually talking about here. We're not talking about, oh, these guys were paid $10,000 by Michigan State or, oh, yeah, these guys are making $40,000. No. Add a zero to that. We're talking 6-figure deals, guys. So let's say, for example, that it's like, we'll call it $500,000, for example. I've heard a few different numbers. Let's kind of settle somewhere in the middle here. Whether that could be true or not, from the people I talk to, I believe it is, but let's just call it $500,000. Okay, great. You're paid that much to play football for Michigan State. Welcome back. Oh, who's knocking on my door? It's an SEC school. They're offering me a 50% raise on top of that. Guys, when it is that much of a difference between that, I would advise my kid to jump in the portal too. Loyalty flies out the door when you could go from making $500,000, for example, to the signing bonus of the Detroit Lions' 3rd-round pick this year. Broderick Martin, 3rd-round defensive tackle, same position actually as Barrow and Harmon. He signed for $850,000 with the Lions. That's kind of the money that we are looking at here. And I hear the argument too that, if you learn, grow, develop, you too will make some serious moolah in the NFL one day. Guys, we're talking Barrow and Harmon, 2 guys that will hear the name probably maybe day 2 of the draft, if not day 3. That kind of money ain't going to be guaranteed. They are essentially starting NFL paychecks a year early. So let's just do benefit of the doubt right here. I'm a big benefit of the doubt guy. Now, let's say they very well could have been content staying here, but someone knocks on that door with the raise that's $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 on top of what they're already getting. Yeah, guys, I get it. I get why they would want to leave. And on top of that, too, I think those teams that are offering that kind of money are going to be seriously competitive, too. Like, I'm talking instant college football playoff in this season. So that's only going to sweeten the deal if we can have an honest dialogue about that. Now, let's just say that there's no benefit of the doubt. These 2, they were going to take the money from Michigan State no matter what. They were going to leave elsewhere after this portal season. Okay? Scumbag moves. Like, just objectively scumbag moves. Let's say that was the plan all along. Still, do you blame the players for taking advantage of the system, or do you just blame the system? We're going to rail on the system a little bit more here, but first, I need to talk your ears off about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Folks, you guys already know it. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, golf season is in full swing. MLB, their season is rolling right now. Go ahead and bet on Spencer Torkelson to eventually hit a home run this season. I know I did today. I believe plus 350 odds is what I got it at. But nevertheless, no shortage of props, futures, same game parlays you can make over at FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, or my personal favorite bet for NBA playoffs, method of first basket. It's not just, who's going to score the first basket? It's how they're going to do it. For example, I got Austin Reeves. First basket, 3-pointer at 28-1. It didn't hit, but it spices up the start of the game. So what are you waiting for out there? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. It's FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now back to my ranting and not so much raving here, but this is the thesis of my little meltdown that I'm having right now is you can't blame MSU for this. They've done everything they can. They've maxed out their money, which, by the way, is still money that is like, we'll call it tier 2 money in the NIL landscape. There are maybe 7 to 10 schools that I would consider tier 1, Michigan State right behind that. They've maxed it out because they don't want to pay their above average defensive tackles like their elite players. Understandable. I get it. You can't blame Harmon and Barrow for leaving because the money at stake, it would almost be foolish to not at least take those phone calls. So now here we go. We're blaming the system. I'm sorry, guy. Like I know here I am just another millennial crying about the system, but no, really, like this system sets up for all this to happen, right? I mean, a system that benefits, again, 10 schools max, like schools that have the NIL that they can throw upwards of, we'll call it $800,000 for conference honorable mention players. And let's talk about those schools actually for a little bit, because this was a comment we got on the episode yesterday. And there's been comments about this all over the place too, is that, eventually those top 10 schools, they're going to burn themselves out of paying so much money. Like they're going to get tired of it. They're going to realize it's not worth it. And I don't agree with that whatsoever, actually. I do not think that those top 10 schools are going to have any burnout whatsoever, because what are they paying for? They are paying for an instant result, getting into the college football playoff, taking them over the edge, getting double-digit wins every season, being competitive in their own conference championships. And more likely than not, like, that is exactly what they are getting. Like, they will get their money's worth. They're not paying this money for no. They're paying this money to go 11-1 in the regular season, 10-2. Odds are these 10 blue blood teams will accomplish that. They will not burn out of spending that money because, again, they are getting results. Who I am worried about burning out is teams like MSU, guys. Like, even tier 2 NIL teams. Like, I'm not saying that this is going to happen or that, hey, MSU is going to stop spending money, but if anyone's going to burn out, it would be any school that is not those top 10 schools, because what did Michigan State just do this offseason? They took care of Simeon Barrow. They took care of Derrick, Harmon. They took care of a few other players. Those guys leave. Now, I don't know the deals that they had structured. I don't know if it was weekly payments, monthly payments. I don't know if it was lump sum. I don't know how much of that money they're getting back. But at the end of the day, you're a big wig NIL donor. You just shelled out a bunch of money for these kids to practice January, February, March, and then leave during April. Tell me how you're going to feel the next offseason. Let's say, for example, we'll just throw a name out there. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but let's say Dylan Tatum. He's flirting with going to the transfer portal. Okay, I'm Mr. Big Rich NIL guy. Gee, I got burnt last year. Do I really want to do this again? Now, let's say you do it for another year, and then the year after that. Or how many times can you go through the cycle of taking care of guys, getting their pledge back to the school, only to be kind of screwed over in the end? How many times is that going to happen before you burn out and you stop giving money right there? So that is what I worry about. It's not the top teams that are going to stop spending. No. Those old money teams, they're never going to run out of that cash, baby. No, especially if they keep on getting the results. So what is my solution? Am I just crying about all this with no solution? No, not entirely. I just don't think any of these solutions will work sometime in the near future. But in theory, like, contracts is the obvious one. All right, like, this is the very popular one that's being thrown around, is make them employees of the school, and then, okay, well, when they sign out of high school, they sign for 2 years or 3 years or 1 year. Like, you get to decide all that when they sign to your school, okay? But that's maybe too quick of a solution. Of course, you got to take baby steps there. So my baby step is, how about just one portal season? Make it between the title game and the second signing day period. That month is your portal season. No spring portal season. No 24/7 free agency like we have going on right now. And then also, you get one free transfer. You get one transfer where you can go to a different school, play immediately. Any transfer after that, you have to sit out a year. Now, I know it's fantasy. I know that'll never happen again, but those are my easy solutions. So, unfortunately, we live in reality, though, don't we? Like, maybe it's just because I'm so jaded because of college sports, but here's what's really going to happen. Nothing's going to change. And let's say that contracts are eventually a thing. Okay, those big money schools are probably still going to buy out those contracts or do the popular thing in college sports right now, which is just sue the NCAA or the schools into oblivion so they can get out of their contracts, so they can go to one of those top 10 schools. Like, I know contracts is the easy thing to say, but will it even matter? will it even matter? So probably not. So college sports, as we know it, is dead. And I kept seeing this comment yesterday too, or not just yesterday, but God, the last few months really I've been seeing this comment is, oh my God, college sports is dying. Oh no, college sports. No, this is going to be the death of college sports. Guys, this isn't going to be the death of college sports. It currently is. Like, college sports as we know it is dead. It's long gone. Tradition? Oh, please. Loyalty? No. Oh, sweetheart. Find a time machine and hop back 10 years for any of that. Like, that's done. We are over it. And believe me, like, I'm not saying that I'm going to stop watching college sports. No. You sicko diehards like myself will never stop watching Michigan State. We'll never stop following college sports. But we can admit that this kind of sucks, right? Unless, again, you're one of the fans of the 7, 8, 9, 10 teams out there that have all sorts of money. But, hey, I'll keep watching because I don't know any better. But for you healthy people out there, You probably will be walking away here. We actually got this email from listener Greg here. I do want to just pour over this really quick. Subject line, portal. It's all Greg wanted to talk about, as many as a lot of other people. This is absolutely insane. I don't even know who's on our football team any longer. The transfer portal is killing fan interest in their collegiate teams. I'm a lifelong Spartan, following football through thick and thin for decades. We did not renew our season tickets this year. My excitement level is at an all-time low due to the uncertainty of who will actually suit up for us this coming fall. I scratch my head wondering how this tragic scenario with NIL and the portal could possibly come to an end. Any ideas? I tried to throw some ideas on the wall right there. We'll see if any of them ever stick. And if they do, it'll be a few years. But, I mean, listeners, Greg, I got to say that is not the first email that I've gotten of that ilk of I'm not renewing season tickets. I'm kind of done with college sports. Like, it's not just me hypothesizing that fans, anywhere from the common fan to fans that were really interested that are just burnt out right now, are going to lose interest. Like, that, you are taking what makes college sports special, seeing players develop, the sense of community, the sense of loyalty, the sense of, hey, rooting for your guys through their career here. And now we get this professional football, which is fine. I have no issue with players being paid. I wanted to make that very clear. But you got to clean up this 24/7 free agency. You got to have some sort of guardrails around all of this. Again, I'm just another talking head that is just going to bemoan about it and come up with little to no solutions because point blank, like we said, I don't know if a solution will ever happen. Toothpaste is out of the tube. It ain't going in. So, hey, on that note, on that happy note, guys, and remember, Kay'Ron Lynch-Adams, he committed. That was exciting, right? That concludes today's episode of Locked on Spartans, your team in green and white. We will be back on tomorrow. Any other transfer portal news, and then talking basketball with our guy, Carter Elliott of Sleepers Media. But until then, love you all. Go green.